I was telling Connor and Brandon Bigsby before we came on the air. They said, "How was your staycation?" Because I just stayed in town, and I'm like, I was on dad duty all week, so it wasn't really a vacation. It was just I didn't have to go to work.
Yeah, I get that.
But we had a lovely week.
That's wonderful.
Kids are back in preschool today. My daughter's first day of preschool. My son's last first day of preschool. So there were some tears shed this morning. But I am very glad to be back in the saddle with all of you. Hello, Willie.
Hello.
Great to see you.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for holding it down for me last week.
Of course.
I listened some. It was good. Very good. Great, even. But yes, I am thrilled to be back with both of you, Connor, all of you. As I said, it's been, I think the exact date was July 16th was the last day we were all present at the same time. And no better time than the present, of course, to talk about Titans training camp practice earlier today. All three of you were at practice. You caught up with new wide receiver Wandale Robinson after practice. We will play that interview for you during the 4 o'clock hour, 4:20 to be precise. So looking forward to hearing that. I haven't heard it yet, so it will be new to me, like it will be new to all of you. Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, will join us at 3:40 for his weekly segment. But before we get into today's practice, since I was off last week and I was trying my hardest not to be plugged in. I mean, I could only help myself so much. I am human.
It was just itching you, man.
Right. But I tried to unplug. I tried not to pay attention to the sports world around me for a week. So for those of us like me, who perhaps were also on vacation last week and are just tuning in to Titans training camp, I want to go around the room and I want a headline from the first several days of Titans training camp. Willie Donick, why don't you start? Give me your headline for how many practices have there been now? 4, 5,
6,
maybe? Thereabouts?
Yeah.
Give me your headline from the first several practices of Titans training camp for those of us who are trying to catch up.
You want something specific or sort of a far-reaching catch-all for all?
You take it wherever you want to take it, my friend.
My headline is work in progress. I see a lot of the things that they're trying to do, all the stuff we've been told about Brian Daboll, all the things that we've been told about Robert Saleh, what Robert Saleh specifically wants to do with the defense, and the same for Daboll and the offense. And I see what they're trying to do, but it's a work in progress. There's a long way to go. There's some things that I really like. There's some things that I have major questions of how quick they're going to be able to make it cohesive, but work in progress.
All right, Derek, I will ask you the same question in a different manner. Give me your first week standouts of Titans training camp. Which players have stood out the most to you through the first several practices, good or bad? Let's start with good.
I think first is Alec.
Alec,
and we were talking about him earlier today, TD and I, and he's about his business. He's about his business this camp, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people headed into the season. So I have been extremely excited about what Alec has been able to do thus far. They were in pass today. We'll talk more about that. But that is my guy that I'm like, just watch out for him. I think this kid's going to have a really good year.
Okay. Anybody standing out for the wrong reason so far during camp, Derek?
Man, standing out for the wrong reasons, I would say at best the quarterbacks, and that's including today. They didn't look as good. There has been some good plays, but there has been some misfires as well. They're still building that rapport across the board with their receivers. So not that I'm disappointed in them, but they're going to have to pick up the pace. They are, starting with starting quarterback.
And we will get to Cam Ward's day in just a moment. Connor, you've been out to every practice so far, covering Titans training camp and the Titans in general for us here at 102.5 The Game. Your headline, your major takeaway from the first few practices of camp.
I would say receivers in general. You're seeing some good moments from all of them. Like Imanner, as Derek mentioned. Let me say this without the big blue glasses on. Wandale Robinson has been pretty impressive. I asked him today, and you'll hear that later next hour. But his work across the middle with Cam Ward is something to keep an eye on. They're comfortable with each other. They play to the advantages of each other's games. So they've been impressive. Carnell Tate, he's had his moments. He didn't particularly stand out today, but I've talked to you about this before, Adam. That iron sharpens iron matchup between Carnell Tate and Alontae Taylor. I would go one win in the column of Alontae Taylor today. So the other thing I would say is defense in general as a unit sticking out. You've got some play in the inside linebacker position with Cedric Ray, who's been playing really well. Anthony Hills had some plays out there. The defensive line has made its moves. Jermaine Johnson is definitely a winner from the first couple of days of training camp. So good things and bad things. Like Willie said, work in progress. You got to see a lot more before I'm comfortable with this team. But good things and bad things.
How do we feel about Carnell Tate? Because he did the media session at the podium. The way he presents himself to the media is the way I see him play in and play out. He's very even keeled. And Derek, that is unlike a lot of wide receivers who I don't know if I would say they all tend to be the same way, but I feel like there's more demonstrative emotion showed by most receivers. Carnell Tate is so icy cool. And like I said, when he gets all these questions, he's just real matter of fact. But everybody seems to be glowing about his ability to pick things up quick. I'm very encouraged. I don't know about you, but what I'm seeing from him. It's not that he's catching 17 touchdowns per practice or anything like that, but he just looks beyond his years. I think because he's a young rookie. Too. Yeah, that point was made today.
I think what you've seen, it's sort of, matching itself up to what's going on the practice field. And obviously what Daboll has said about him when it comes to learning the offense, the mental part of the game, the even keel demeanor, I think it comes from, just look at all of the Ohio State wide receivers. I don't think any of them have this demonstrative sort of attitude or, this attitude of give me the damn ball, or I think they all, because they've been accustomed to having to wait their turn, because the room has been so deep with talent at that position at Ohio State. So he's taking that same thing. And then Hartline, I'm sure, is an excellent coach. But I'm wondering if, are we setting this young man up for a task that he may not be able to accomplish this season?
We were talking about this, Derek, during minicamp, you and me. Remember, you know what I love the most, and by love I mean hate, the videos from practice with the slow motion and everything like that. It makes everything look like cinema. And Carnell Tate was the star of those short video clips for the Titans during OTAs, one-handed catches, and all of those things. And you and I talked about then perhaps pumping the brakes a little bit on the Carnell Tate hype train, just because you're putting a lot on this kid's plate. And there's already a lot on his plate because he's the number 4 overall pick in the draft. We know the Titans' history of drafting receivers, especially drafting receivers at or near the top of the draft. It's suspect. So there's a lot working against Carnell Tate. So I can understand your point, but I think that I think that train has left the station.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But once you get into practice and you understand, how difficult it is going to be for him day in and day out. And I'm not just talking necessarily the mental part, because yes, he is picking up on the offense pretty well, and he seems to be on pace. But, the grind of camp hasn't started yet. And I know what happens in the grind of camp, even the best of them. They wear down a little bit because they've never been through this type of grueling sort of 2 days. And again, granted, I know things have changed, but yet and still, they're going at a pace that probably they didn't go like all the time. And everything now means so much more. So it's like, let's wait for this kid to get through camp. Let's see some preseason games of him. He's going to wow us. I know that, but I don't want to get to a point where, we expect, him to just carry the load when it comes to the receivers, when he still has a developing quarterback in the new offense with offensive line developing. So there's still things, as talented as he is, there's still things that are working against him.
Let's talk about today's practice, the first practice in pads. It's a big day when the Titans put on the pads for the first time this season. From all accounts that I've read, and I've talked to the three of you, Cam Ward had a solid day. I've even seen some reporters say it was his best practice yet of camp. However, the headline appears to be 2 interceptions that Cam Ward threw. I want to get y'all's takes on those because you were there. But first, let's hear from Robert Saleh on those 2 plays, 2 interceptions from Cam Ward today at practice.
Rolling out through across his body, interceptions. How do you kind of balance approaching that? You don't want to take the stinger out, so to speak, but you still want to be more cautious.
Yeah, those are. I don't want to say they're non-negotiables, but throwing across your body, especially shallow, it's different if you really extend the pocket and it just really opens up for you. But when there's so much traffic in there, the one that Jermaine made was an elite play. That's your check down with regard to a boot. Jermaine made a hell of a play, but usually that checkdowns, you can count on it being open. But the first one that Hooker intercepted probably was a poor decision.
So, Willie, you were there. Let's break down these interceptions because from what I've read, both interceptions came on basically the same play in terms of what Cam Ward was trying to do. But you were there. You saw it. What did you make of those 2 passes in particular?
First, I would agree with some of the other things that we saw at practice today, because I do think this is the unfortunate part of what we take out of practice. The focus is going to be on these 2 plays when he ran, 20 plays, but he had some really good throws in there too, some laser beams that I thought he and Wandale Robinson had a lot of good connections today. In fact, all 3 guys, and this is what we're trying to find out, do they have, we talked about this in a lot of detail on Friday, can they find the right roles of Robinson in the slot? Ridley is more of the deep guy. He doesn't have to do it all. He can just play to his strengths, and then Tate being that solid rookie who's ready to help, it does a little bit of everything. If the chemistry between those 3 is right, and then Iamaner and DK, who have some great rookie experience under their belt, can fit in as the depth. I mean, that really looks like it's got potential to be a lot better. And that was there today. I saw all 3 of the main guys we talked about all made nice plays. But Connor and I discussed this about the 2 interceptions. Patrick Mahomes kind of ruined it, I think, for all quarterbacks who have been taught their whole lives. Don't throw across your body, back against the grain, over the middle, late. Like all those combinations, it equals disaster every time. Well, that was true until Patrick Mahomes started doing that all the time and making it. Because I remember watching Patrick Mahomes, DMase, when he was a young quarterback. I'm like, he's going to get burned on that. He's not going to get away with it. Sooner or later, they're going to figure it out. He's going to start. It never happened. But he is the exception. And Cam Ward, this is what we got to find out. He's got to weed that out. The non-negotiable part of it, I'm sure it was non-negotiable for Patrick Mahomes until Andy Reid said, you know what? He does that pretty well. Let's let him do it.
I look at it from this standpoint. One, when Saleh says, well, it's usually open, it wasn't open that time. It wasn't open that time. So don't let your quarterback off the hook that quickly. He should be able to see that that's not a throw that you should make, and that's what they have to get him to that point. And I know when TD asked the question, how do you there has to be a way. You've done this long enough as a coach, and you've watched others do it long enough. You've been around some great coaches. Hell, you was with a great coach in San Fran. So there had to be a point where, in discussing that with Purdy, you overheard conversations or in the meeting. So there has to be a way that you can let your quarterback know. And I'm sure Dabo and they're working on that. But I'm upset that it happened twice. That's my whole thing. The first time, you can say, well, this happened. The second, make sure the second go around that you're not putting yourself. I know it's practice. I get it. I know you want to have that arm arrogance, that's being thrown out there. But arm arrogance in a situation where you really don't need to have it because you already threw an interception. That's my whole thing. Just learn from those things. Because if it looks the same way, more than likely it's going to be the same way. That's why I'm not going to let him off the hook that quick. Now, outside of that, he had a really good day. He showed the ability to throw in tight spaces. He threw some deep balls. He was accurate with a lot of his things. And he did dirt a few. But those two situations, like, those are the things that get you beat in games. You can play a fantastic game and you have that one mistake, and that is the difference from you winning 21 to 17 or losing 21 to 24. So stuff like that. So I'm not just going to dismiss it, but I'm not going to be, overly critical of it too. I'm just saying, hey, listen, you got to be better your second go around because it was the same exact scenario.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com. Quickly, Matthew in Nashville says, I need Willie's thoughts on the Mets trade deadline moves today. Thanks for Luke Weaver, by the way.
Well, when TD comes on at 3:40, we've already, TD and I have already had each other's back today. We've already had some therapy. The Mets are dismantling half of their roster today as we speak. Yeah, DMase is still trying to.
We'll get to Tarek Skubal later.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Like, wow.
That's really the one. But yeah, the Mets.
Your Mets, yeah, man.
They're trading everything they can get something.
People
for.
trading stuff, guys trading tickets.
Yeah.
It's a fire sale in Queens. 615-737-1025. Your thoughts on the Tennessee Titans' first practice in pads? As Willie mentioned, Turron Davenport will join us at 3:40. But coming up next, we were just talking about Cam Ward. Let's talk about his predecessor as Titans starting quarterback coming up next, because Will Levis, out of witness protection, addressed reporters the other day for the first time in more than a year, and he had some interesting things to say. We will discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. It is a Reaction Monday. We are reacting to the Titans' first practice in pads of the season, and Reaction Mondays are brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville.
feel like I was a kid when I got here. I've definitely turned into a man, and there's still a lot of growing that I need to do. And but I think what I touched on earlier, just on the mental side, being able to not care as much about what other people say or what other people think. I feel like I worked a lot for other people's approval in the beginning of my career, and whereas I'm just trying to be the best version of me at this point, and I have more confidence than I've ever had because of that. I don't need to go out there and win X amount of games before I can feel the confidence. Like, I have the confidence right now. I know I've put the tape out there already that I'm a dang good quarterback in this league, and I'm even better than I ever have been. So.
The faith that you have a future as a starter in this league?
100%. I know I think there are not 32 quarterbacks in this league better than me. I know that for sure.
That was Will Levis the other day breaking his silence, and that is an appropriate usage of breaking one's silence, because we had not heard Willie Donick from Will Levis in more than a year since he underwent shoulder surgery. But that last part, that went around the NFL world over the weekend. Will Levis saying, and I quote, "There are not 32 quarterbacks in this league better than me." And if you looked hard enough during that news conference, you could see Levis blinking "save me" in Morse code. But first time we've heard from Will Levis, Willie, in more than a year. And I'm all about self-improvement, and I'm all about mental health. And if Will Levis needed that 1 year to get away from football, I think he said he hadn't been away from football like that since he was in second grade or something like that. So if he's in a better headspace, that's great. Congratulations to Will Levis. And I mean that sincerely. But there aren't 32 quarterbacks in this league better than him. He's the third string quarterback on his own team, which by definition means there's at least 64 quarterbacks who are better than him. But what were your thoughts on Will Levis's first news conference in more than a year?
I really thought I had mixed feelings about that. He hadn't been in the spotlight in a long time. He's always had that type of trait in the way he talks. And I've always felt like he talks confidently. He doesn't play confidently. So it's like, you want to see what he's saying translate to what you're watching when he's playing. I think it's 100% fine to say, I feel like I'm one of the best 32 quarterbacks. There's a different way to say that, a different time to say that. And I think that's what has hurt him in the past with his approach off the field, And so I just think it was not the right time to say that. Not the very first time you take the podium, especially when you watch the practices, he is taking the reps as the third team. I was curious when Trubisky got out there if they would split the reps with the second team. That has not been the case. And so I want to see it. I want it because DMase, it's the same thing. He will throw 2 or 3 passes where you're like, dang, wow, that was big time. And then there's the mistake that you're saying that's still the thing that is holding him back and always has held him back.
Connor, play that clip again for me, because there are a lot of interesting things within what he said that I do want to comment on.
I feel like I was a kid when I got here. I've definitely turned into a man, and there's still a lot of growing that I need to do. And but I think what I touched on earlier, just on the mental side, being able to not care as much about what other people say or what other people think. I feel like I worked a lot for other people's approval in the beginning of my career, and whereas I'm just trying to be the best version of me at this point, and I have more confidence than I've ever had because of that. I don't need to go out there and win X amount of games before I can feel the confidence. Like, I have the confidence right now. I know I've put the tape out there already that I'm a dang good quarterback in this league, and I'm even better than I ever have been. So
the faith that you have a future as a starter in this league?
100%. I know I think there are not 32 quarterbacks in this league better than me. I know that for sure.
Well, and listen, I do agree with Will Levis from this standpoint. There are not 32 quarterbacks in the league that are starting that I believe is better than him. But there are enough that you're not a starter at this moment. And they believe there's 2 on your team that are better than you. But when you talk about talent, I've always said it. I don't think there's 32 quarterbacks as talented as Will Levis, but how he plays, sort of, yeah, you got the talent, but do you have the know-how to put it all together with the mental side of the game? Can you process it fast enough and do it consistently enough to prove to us and other people that you are a starting quarterback? I think that's the part that he's missing. It's not that, scouts don't believe you have the potential or you have the tools. There are a lot of guys that come through this league with potential. But then there are only a percentage of those guys that come through here that are able to put it all together. And those guys typically last in the NFL. The part that he's also missing too is this. Listen, you may not get that many more shots. You may not. This isn't the wide receiver position. This isn't the running back position where you rotating. This ain't the tight end position where they're rotating them all the time. No, there's one quarterback at a time. And you're only going to get an opportunity is if that quarterback gets hurt or if they're blowing somebody out. They've seen what you can do, Will Levis. And again, I do agree from a skill set, from a potential, what he has as a quarterback. Yes, I would say he's better. I could point to a couple of teams, if you're just talking about his physical attributes, that he would be better than that said quarterback on teams right now. But again, it's not all about that. You got to be able to, you make people in that office live on a roller coaster. And they don't want to live on a roller coaster, not with a quarterback. Because again, yeah, you said it. You have put it on tape. But you also put the bad on tape too.
I was just about to say, no one is forgetting the surrender Cobra memes from 2024 with hands behind head after throwing ridiculous interception after ridiculous interception. That is who Will Levis is to the rest of the NFL. And yes, he's put some damn good throws on tape from 2 years ago, but those plays are not going to outweigh all of the ridiculous turnovers he had as the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. And this is why I feel like it's in the best interest of everybody, Will Levis and everyone within the Titans organization, to find a way to part ways. Because I do believe that Will Levis will be a distraction. And I don't think Will Levis is going to sound off at a news conference and speak ill of Cam Ward or throw anybody under the bus or anything like that. But just his presence, even as a third string quarterback, it's kind of awkward. And you know that if Cam Ward struggles, people will be like, well, if we squint hard enough, Will Levis wasn't that bad 2 years ago. Let's give him another shot. I just rip the Band-Aid off. As Derek said, there are plenty of teams out there who have major quarterback problems. And maybe one of those teams will talk themselves into Will Levis. But I just think the longer he's on the roster, the more awkward it becomes.
Well, that's why I think it was ultimately not the right way to go. Like what he seemed to be saying in that answer was, I hope I get traded. Somebody, I want to be that guy. I can be that guy for your team. I'm out here.
Right. He was talking to the rest of the league.
I'm better than some guys that have jobs on your team. Mm-hmm. So consider trade, because I'm sure this has been the backdrop of his whole summer. Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Or even go back to the spring at the draft. There was a lot of, hey, will Levis get traded during the draft? Mm-hmm. And it hasn't happened. And so he's probably sitting there going, what do I do? And I think the best thing, even though it might be the easiest, it may not be the easiest thing, is to just don't say anything. Be the team guy. Go out and play well. And that would take care of itself. I'm not sure he helped himself get traded. If that's what he wants, by doing what he did.
Listen, I understand, the situation he is. I truly do. Because, for 3 years, I was in that Will Levis space, having to prove it all over again, over and over again, doing some good things, and you're still not getting that opportunity. So I get when he goes out and he works his tail off, and he's, in his mind, I've gotten better mentally, I've gotten better physically. Now only thing I need is that opportunity. I get that part. I get it. And you want, anytime you're in front of a mic, especially your first time, you want to let people know that I've been working damn hard, and I believe I've improved on certain areas or whatnot. I just need that chance. So you want your name to continue to be in the front of people's minds. But I think, the way you go about it, you may end up causing more of a distraction than anything, because I didn't think he had a particularly good practice today. But listen, he's not, unfortunately. I know Salah said it's a competition, but come on, it's not no competition.
It doesn't appear that
Trubisky
way.
is the backup
I was
quarterback.
curious.
Yeah.
When he said that, I wanted to look to see, and Trubisky missed the first practice, so Levis got to run with the twos. So I was curious if we were going to see things that would lead you to believe they actually really are.
And Will Levis
Trubisky.
knows it. Will Levis knows it's not a competition. That's why he said some of the things he said the other day. He understands, as much as Salah said this is competition, Trubisky didn't come here to be the third string quarterback and then to pay him that money to be the third. No. Will Levis know he's in an uphill battle. He's not going to get the reps that he needs to show. And I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get many, if all, reps in preseason. It just depends, So I can't 100% fault him for doing what he's doing, because listen, when you're in that situation, it's like, man, I didn't say anything last year. I was going through my whole rehab and all this other stuff. And then you finally get an opportunity to say something. So I understand that part, but I'm not sure if he helped himself if at all, with that.
My message would be dominate the third team.
Mhm.
Dominate those reps. If you're what you say you are, one of the 32 best quarterbacks, then you should stand out when it's threes versus threes. That should be the mindset that he has to have every day. And you can privately say it stinks. I know it stinks. You think you're better, and you're kind of in limbo right now. And the next chapter, you want that next chapter to happen. But all you can do right now is go out to practice and impress. That tape is going to be out there. You don't need to say all these things. You just have to. People know who you are. They know who you are around the league. There are scouts for a reason, and there are always teams that need quarterbacks.
You don't need to be the best of one of the 32. Will Levis, you're at a point you just need to be one of the top 64.
Right.
That's all you need to
one.
be.
That's
Yes, step one is be the top 64.
And at
then
the
you can
moment
go
on
there.
the depth chart, he is not one of the top 64
Exactly.
because he's the third string quarterback on the Tennessee Titans.
I've said this, and I still believe it. I think he can be easily in the top half of
Oh,
the
of course. Yes.
backups in the league. I think he should be in this league for a long time if he plays his cards right. But with the bravado, like some of the DNA of a backup quarterback is the guy that doesn't say anything. Just ready. Hey, when I need to step in there, I'm ready.
Let's quickly go to our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, and welcome in Derek. Derek, thank you for calling and waiting. Please go ahead.
Thanks for taking my call, guys. I'm not a Will fan, but to be honest, I'm not a Cam fan yet. I wasn't a Steve McNair fan until he did what he did. I just renewed my PSL for the new stadium, $20,000. You invest that much money and you invest your time, you want people to do well. So, I'm out on all of them till you get out there and perform. But my biggest thing is, I don't know that if he would have got up there and said, I'm the 64th best quarterback, that anybody would have paid attention. I don't mind some confidence. And if he would have got up there and timidly said, oh, I'm okay to play still, I'm not very good, I want to see the confidence in him. And I know you guys are the same. I wish him well, and I hope he does well. But I think anybody that would listen to him go, I'm the 64th best quarterback out there, I want to know that you think you're what you are. I want to see you get out there and improve. And I'll always go back, guys. I'm a little bit older. All these quarterbacks, and when I was in my youth, had an opportunity to do something before they actually started. Now we throw them out there. We pay them so much money. I get it. But at the same time, a lot of these quarterbacks learned, and in their first 1 or 2 years, we've seen that with Darnold and other quarterbacks that's went over to different places and done well. But I don't blame his cockiness. I wouldn't wanted to hear that. I wouldn't have hired him or wanted him if he would have said, I'm the 70th best quarterback. I want to hear a little confidence. Always great to talk
Okay.
to you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you,
Thank
Derek.
you. You got a point. I get it. Hey, I'm the
Right.
64th.
Right.
I get it.
But there's a way to say it
Yeah.
and a way not to say it, because especially where he is in the on the map right now.
615-737-1025. Will Levis, a couple of days ago, spoke for the first time in more than a year to reporters, and he said, and I quote, "There are not 32 quarterbacks in this league better than me." We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, will join the program. We'll get his thoughts on practice today and more. That's coming up next. 615-737-1025. Speaking of training camp, you can keep up with Titans training camp here on 1025 The Game. Player interviews, including ours with Wandale Robinson, coming up at 4:20 and more to get you prepped for the upcoming Titans season. All of our coverage of Titans training camp is presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants, Parman Tractor and Equipment, and Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. DMase, Vingan and Donick, 1025. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Let's go to our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, who is presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. Hello, TD. How are you? TD, you there?
He's checking the trade tracker right now to see if any more Mets pitchers have been traded today. They've traded about half of the staff.
I got you now.
Hey, we got you,
I
TD.
got you now.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm chilling out, man. I'm coming to you live from the cold tub over at Protocol, boy. This is quite an experience. I'll tell you that much.
Man, the Mets got you in the cold tub. Wow. Goodness.
Man, I got to do something to cool my temper's flaring. I got to do something to cool it off, you know?
He's cooling off. He's cooling off the fire sale that's going on
There it is.
in Flushing right now. But Turron, let's start with Will Levis, because we were just talking about Will Levis. He addressed reporters the other day for the first time in more than a year. I know you wrote about it for ESPN.com. The one quote that made the rounds, quote, "There are not 32 quarterbacks in this league better than me." Here's my first question for you. How do you feel like Levis handled his first news conference in more than a year? Do you think he said the right things? Would you have recommended he massaged some things? What did you think of Levis's performance at the podium?
No, I think for the most part, he handled himself well. And I mean, you look at his ability, it's there. The only thing is just like when you go from the neck up, that's when the question marks come. So for him to talk about being able to process some of the things that he did and work mentally to not play, to prove himself to others all the time. I mean, to me, that was always the reason why you saw him pressing. So I think it was good to talk about that. However, I think he could have been more accountable when Terry McCormick asked him about 2024. You know, I think better, but I mean, you're always going to have something to nitpick, you know, about somebody's podium session. But for the most part, he held himself well. I thought it was pretty good.
Unsurprisingly, Turron, the 2 interceptions that Cam Ward threw today at practice are getting most of the attention. But let's look at the big picture. How would you evaluate Ward's overall performance today? What stood out to you?
Yeah, I think he played well overall. I mean, the 2 interceptions, and the thing you got to remember, DMase, we were standing right there watching it, and we know that that's stuff that he can't do. But I mean, it's better to learn that in practice, right, than in a game. So I'm going to look at those mistakes and you know, take them for what they are. They're a mistake. You learn from it and move on. And I think when you look at what Robert Saleh said, you know, obviously the one to Hooker, it was a poor decision. Like, you don't throw across your body like that. Now, the second one, to give a little explanation, he was throwing across his body to what is normally there, a check down, right? But as Saleh said, Jermaine Johnson made a really good play, and he was able to intercept it. But if you look at the throws, and DMase, again, you know, we were watching. Because, you know, we both were going to talk to Wandale Robinson, so we were watching that. And there were some shots that he fitted in there really, really good. In fact, one of his big detractors, you know, after the interception was like, hey, what about where are the good throws? And we're like, hey, man, did you see that one, and that one? So he had good throws, but I mean, look, there were mistakes that I'm sure he would want to bring back. But again, it's better to do it now than, you know, in September.
TD, yeah, we were talking about that. My whole thing with those plays was, yeah, I understand it. I'm not going to make excuses for the quarterback. He has to learn that he can't do that, especially not twice. But even with those throws, he had some really good throws. He showed he can put it in tight spaces. He shows his ability to navigate the pocket and take the check down when it's there. But those other things do need to get better. Now, talking about the passing game, one guy that we talked about a lot today on the sideline was Alec Almaner. What are you seeing from him? Because I think he's the one guy that is truly standing out, even when you talk about Carnell Tate, but people aren't talking about Alec the way I believe they need to be.
Yeah. Real quick side note, Willie, Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor to the Cubs for their number 2 prospect, Jefferson Rojas. We'll see about that. But, yeah.
2 more guys gone.
How many players is that now traded by the Mets today?
6
Yeah,
or 7?
I mean, it's probably, like 7.
Jeez.
But yeah, Io Manor, and I asked Saleh about him also. And it's pretty cool when you have a guy tell you something he's going to work on, come back and say some of the things that he did to work on it, and then you see it happening. And he wanted to work on like the confidence and playing more aggressively and consistently. And Robert Saleh commended him for the body language, for the ability to play with that confidence because of the preparation that he put in. And you're seeing it. I mean, it wasn't as much in the OTAs and minicamp, but training camp came, and it's like that dude, I don't know, he went to see the Wizard and got some heart, man, because he's like playing with an aggressiveness, and you see him going up and attacking the football. I remember, 3 days ago, Cam rolled to his left, and he sidearmed one to Aya Manor, and I mean, like, it was one of those, like, he marched Cordell Flat, rather. Grabbed that ball, turned and outran the safety to the end zone. And then you saw what he did at the release point, a little whoop, and it got, was able to stack Michael Robinson and Mitch Trubisky went and threw it to him. And he ran it down and caught it. I mean, you're seeing that guy be a big time threat, on the deep passes, back shoulders, et cetera, as well as the intermediate, that dig route, 15 to 20 yards. And that's where it takes a man to play right there in the middle of the field, and he's doing it.
Now, we're not going to be able to see all of that if the offensive line doesn't, protect Cam a lot better than what they did last year. And J.C. Latham is a guy. And you never know what a guy is going through unless he actually says it at that moment. And a lot of guys typically keep what's going on with them. They tend to keep it close. It's not until afterwards you find out. And what I found out, or what we all found out about J.C. Latham is, I wonder, you can understand why he played the way he played last year, considering all the things he couldn't do as far as build strength. So how are you looking at that, seeing how he looks now, and how do you project that?
Well, if you remember, he was a part of that first team period, but then after that, he worked on the side, and then we saw him walk over in front of us. He didn't take part in the remaining team period. So you have that. I think I'm glad that he shared something that really offered a lot of perspective. And when I told you this, it really resonated with you. And that was the fact that the man during the regular season, because of the hip injury, couldn't do any lower body work. I mean, as a football player, period, your lower body is where it's at. But especially as an offensive lineman, to not be able to do that, it kind of changes the way you look. I'm not saying you make an excuse, but it changes things. And I think, for him, whatever is going on that kept him out of a team period today is something that, you hope he could work through quickly, especially for a guy like that who's, in a mental space where he's doing everything he can to, have the confidence and, not let one bad thing spiral into another. And you like to see him be able to get through whatever he's working with.
Turron Davenport is with us. We're talking Titans on training camp, the first day of pads today. Turron, let's slide over from Latham's spot. How do you I'm seeing Slater. I keep wanting to call him Jackie Slater.
Oh, Jackie Slater.
That would be good, right? Jackie Slater was really good for a long time. But Schlottman and Slater, are they grabbing the jobs, or do you still want to see more before we think that they're going to get the start?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to see more. It's really, as Salah said, you're going to see guys rotating at that position. It's hard to, after one day in pads, say where somebody should or shouldn't be. It's going to continue to be a competition. I mean, we saw Cordell Volson get out in space on that one screen, DMase, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I say, he was running like he had the super Timberlands on. You know what I'm saying? So this team is obviously going to want a screen, and your guards are really important in that. So, that's something that Volson's going to have to do better in the coming future. So I don't know, man. It's a competition, and I guess we're going to see, especially joint practices and the preseason games, where it's going to fall out.
Turron, one of the things that can be really entertaining sometimes is when you get a very boisterous skill player, but a lot of times a wide receiver. I don't want to put all the divas, not because we have a wide receiver in our presence here, right? But it's fun to see the swagger sometimes. I think Carnell Tate is an exception. I love the icy coolness with him at the podium today. He's just real matter of fact. He's all business. And when you watch him play, he keeps that even keel. So what do you make of that DNA?
No, I think that's a part of just the smoothness and you spell it SMOOVE. You know what I mean? On purpose. It's part of that he brings to the table. And it's almost like he's mature beyond his years, you know, and you like that. You like a guy that is never too high, never too low. I mean, it's very much like, you know who it reminds me of? Frankly, I'm not saying he's the same player, so everybody chill out, right? But I'm just saying the personality is Larry Fitzgerald. Like, if you remember, you never saw Fitz, like, you rarely saw him spike the ball. He would just hand the ball to the ref. He was always even-keeled. When stuff was bad, he was one way. When stuff was good, he was the same way. And I think that's what we're seeing early from Carnell Tate. Again, I'm not saying he's the same player, but I'm just saying personality-wise, you see similarities there.
How do you think that meshes? Because I've watched Tate and Wandale Robinson, who I also think is a pretty even-keel guy, not a super emotional player from play in and play out. How do you think that mixes with Cam Ward? Because they've both said how direct Cam Ward is. And when you watch Cam Ward at practice, you will see emotional outbursts sometimes.
Yeah, I think it mixes well in that, you know, hey, okay, you got one guy who is going to, you know, show the emotion and be fiery. And you have the other guys who just, they're in their own lane and they're even keeled. And that's fine. I mean, and I don't think it's too much of a roller coaster with Cam Ward either. I think really he's almost always excited, it seems like, you know, so I don't think there's too much of a difference because they're just as direct. You know, I talked to Wandale Robinson today, you know, about some of the things that have been going on. And he was very direct saying, you know, how it has to go as opposed to how it went and what's going well also. So I think it's a good match, a good blend.
Turron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation. Titans reporter has been our guest on DMase, Vingen, and Donick. He joins us every Monday. Turron, enjoy your cold plunge, my friend. Maybe within the next hour, 5 more Mets players will be traded. We'll all find out together.
Hey, listen, I don't care no matter what, go Mets. We just got to watch them celebrate the 40th anniversary of the 86 Mets.
That was nice.
The last championship. And I don't know, Willie, if you saw Bob Ojada's words for David Stearns, but, you know, I'm with him. He's not with the analytics side of things. You better look at the intangibles.
That's a great point. Baseball is still played by people, last I checked. There's some interesting characters on the 86 team. Ray Knight dropped a nice F-bomb, too, on the broadcast.
That was the crew, man. That was the crew. You got to love them.
All right, TD. Catch up with you next week.
All right.
615-737-1025. You heard Turron Davenport mention Wandale Robinson there. Willie, Derek, and Connor also caught up with Wandale Robinson today. You'll hear that interview at 4:20. 615-737-1025. We've got some more reaction on Will Levis we'll get to. Plus, one member of the Tennessee Titans organization who apparently has a lot at stake this season. I heard an interesting discussion about this. I want to bring it to the show coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen, 1025 The Game. DMase, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and Connor Newt here with you. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Connor Newt caught up with new Titans wide receiver Wandale Robinson after practice today. You will hear that interview in about 15 minutes. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't heard it yet. I just hope it's not 4 minutes of Connor going, Kentucky, 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 Kentucky. Big blue, Kentucky, Kentucky.
We can't promise you that there are no Kentucky questions, but we can promise you he didn't go on a
We're talking a lot of
Kentucky rant.
Kentucky today. We were talking Will Levis. We're going to talk to Wandale Robinson. Who are we? Kentucky Sports Radio?
Blue always gets in, pal.
Connor does a great job of holding restraint, like because Wandale, he catches a lot of passes.
Yeah.
Right? He caught several today. One went into the end zone, and you could see Connor kind of inching up to the rope where the divide is. He wanted to lean out over and say, "Go, Big Blue! Go,
Willie
Big Blue!"
supervised me.
Wandale!
Today. It was okay. Willie was monitoring me the whole day.
Yeah. So far, so
he kept
good.
it professional.
Yeah.
Kept it professional.
He wanted to crank up that fight song.
Yeah.
So as soon as he entered the end zone.
By the way, Andrew says, all these days without a word of the day, I feel dumber than a bag of bricks. Thanks a lot, Adam. First of all, I have been slacking on the word of the day, even when I was not on vacation. So, Andrew, for you, today's word of the day is mitigate. To mitigate something is to make it less severe, harmful, or painful. And we will try to sprinkle that in over the course of the show. But today's word of the day is mitigate. Before we move on to more Titans topics, we do have some reaction to our conversation about Will Levis, 615-737-1025. Matthew says, on my list, there are 37 quarterbacks I'd rather have than Will Levis. And Matthew, I appreciate you listing the 37 quarterbacks. I'm not going to read them all.
He actually gave you the list.
He gave me a list and then adds, there aren't any Arizona Cardinals quarterbacks on that list. So he could, in theory, start in Arizona.
Got a point there. Just so can those other guys that were in front of him.
Yes, Matthew took the time to list 37, all 37 quarterbacks he would rather have.
He's done his homework.
Than Will Levis. One texter says, is there anyone in the NFL that is currently starting that you guys would either start Levis over or think Levis could beat out as a starter?
Oh, man. I would love to see him compete with Jackson Dart.
Okay.
With the Giants.
With the Giants, yeah. Now I'm thinking about the low end.
Let me see.
Well, we mentioned Arizona, Jacoby Brissett.
Yes.
The starting quarterback in Arizona.
Absolutely.
Would you rather take Will Levis or Malik Willis?
Ooh, that'd be a good bet. I think even in Minnesota, because
with Kyler Murray,
he's going to be, if he's starting off injured, that can be a situation where, because of his injury, you're truly competing with him.
The Jets with Geno Smith, perhaps.
Yes, the Jets.
Atlanta,
the Falcons with Tua and Michael Penix.
Right. Atlanta, I had a good buddy. People might remember the name Bruce Elder, great player at Vanderbilt. One of my roommates. He goes, "We have two left-handed quarterbacks." He has a funny way of complaining. People that know him, he's just great. He sounds really.
I can't imagine that's ever happened in the NFL
because we have two left-handed quarterbacks, both hurt,
and that's what you get.
Yeah, so it's about 3 or 4 teams, about 3 teams.
Okay.
That,
Arizona, the Jets,
the Giants,
Browns.
Yeah, I guess he could compete.
Which team?
The Browns.
I mean, God, anybody.
Anybody
can.
Yeah.
We all could.
We
could all start for the Browns.
You can add Will Levis to the back of that dude's
I'm
jersey.
sure
he
had them circled on his list. But he said, "I feel like I'm one of the best 32." He's like, Browns.
What do you think about your New Orleans Saints?
I don't know. Tyler Shuck, he had his moments, but
Now that's an interesting one, right?
Yes.
Because I'm sure there are optimists down there in New Orleans that are like, that's the guy. He's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
But he could probably go a lot of different directions. And I would think just the way the tides have risen and fallen over the last few years with the reclamation projects like Sam Darnold, I'm sure Will Levis privately and now going public thinks he could be the next guy. And why wouldn't you? Because there's enough guys that bounced back after coming back from oblivion that you think there's a shot.
But the problem is that he can't mitigate the problems that he's shown already.
He has to show that he has taken
Derek
steps.
Mason from the top rope.
So
Yeah.
that's the hard part for him. He may not get a chance for people to see it, So, yeah, I mean, people like what Will Levis said, but then now he has to go out and prove it. And the bad part about it is, he's not going to get the opportunities he needs to prove that he can, as he thinks, can be one of 32 quarterbacks that are starting in this league.
Steven says, I would like to see Will Levis compete for a starting job with Jacoby Brissett, Geno Smith, and Deshaun Watson. So Arizona, the Jets, and Cleveland. Jackson says, what about a trade to the Jags as a backup to Trevor Lawrence? Reunite him with Liam Cohen from his Kentucky days.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know who.
Kevin in Florida also mentions
Jacksonville.
Levis with Jacksonville. I mean, there is a connection there.
Let me see.
While you're looking at that, one other question from Jared from Spring Hill. What's worse, having Levis on the roster and it being awkward versus trading him for nothing and him getting that opportunity to flourish? We've seen that before too many times here at quarterback and at other positions.
I mean, the best thing I think for all parties is that, Will Levis show enough where he can entice someone to giving up, a pick. Now, listen, we know it's not going to be a third or fourth rounder, but some way, somehow, if I can get somebody to give up a fifth, sixth, definitely. But if you can get up to a fifth, that's all you can hope for, because this story doesn't end well when you're talking about him and being on his team. It just doesn't. Now, if you're talking about the to be continue, I think that works out well for him, that he gets an opportunity to go to another team. But I don't think at the end of the day that he's going to be a guy that makes this roster. And a lot of it is just going to be because they rather have somebody else as that third quarterback that they can put on practice squads than have Will Levis.
One texter says Nick Mullins is the Jags
Yes,
backup.
I looked at that. Yeah.
Joey Aguilar also in the game.
Yes.
Nick Mullins has started 20 games in 8 years. He's 5-15. So I'm sure
Similar to Levis,
Exactly.
who I believe is 6-15 as a starter.
and but my point would be it's more condensed.
Yes.
with Levis.
Yes.
He has held the job for longer in a shorter period. Nick Mullins is 31. It's an intriguing one with the Cohen connection.
Mhm.
One texter says the Buccaneers with all of the Baker Mayfield drama. One texter says Levis and 2 first-round picks for Trey McBride.
Yeah.
I think even Madden NFL would reject that trade
Exactly.
out of hand. Eli says send him to Green Bay, so I guess he can get the Malik Willis rub, like Malik Willis got in Green Bay, and then signs a big contract elsewhere. So a lot of thoughts.
The backup discussion is an entirely different discussion. If you're talking about is Will Levis better than a lot of the backups,
Mhm.
I think yes.
Yes.
But the question is, for those teams, would you trade anything for him, or would you wait and just say, look, you know it, I know it. You don't want him there. You're not going to keep him on the roster. And so we're going to wait for you to cut him. And then we're going to call Will Levis's agent and welcome him with open arms
Yes.
to our team. But that's different than saying we'll give you a draft pick. Like a 7th round pick is something.
Yeah.
That's what they got from Malik Willis. I didn't think that they would get anything from Malik Willis.
Mhm.
They got a 7th.
Why? Because
So-
Malik Willis played well in preseason, just enough where it was like, oh, okay, let's
Yeah.
trade for him.
So I think that's what's going on, right? I think if you called the Titans today and said you could get a 5th, maybe, I think it would be a done deal.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I
But
think it would be.
it shows you, though, that they've been patient.
Mhm.
They've been waiting to see what moves the needle if somebody else gets hurt. But right now, I don't think anybody's come forth with a good offer. That's the only thing I can deduce, I would think, because it And you got Hendon Hooker out there too, right? He's not taking any reps.
No.
They've got him out there, I think, for the sole purpose of he's the third guy once they move on from Levis. That's what it looks like the way they're doing it.
One texter says, send him to Pittsburgh to replace Aaron Rodgers next year. And we might not have time for this today, but Aaron Rodgers, my God, man. That guy,
the fifth.
That guy
Just
is
go sit down.
Exhausting. He is exhausting. Kevin says, Robert Saleh won't let Levis go to Jacksonville without a fist fight with Liam Cohen. I mean, they did have that moment.
I think they should arm wrestle. I win, you give me a fifth, and you get Levis.
One texter says, Levis would make a good backup in Denver. I'm sorry, that position has already been taken by Taysom Hill at some point, because Sean Payton, as a Saints fan, I'll tell you, if Sean Payton loves one thing, it's some Taysom Hill. So Taysom Hill, I would not be shocked if he ends up in Denver with Sean Payton. And when you brought up Tyler Shuck earlier, Willie, Drew Brees is going into the Hall of Fame this weekend, and Sean Payton, I believe, will be inducting him into the Hall of Fame. And I shed a tear. I'm like, those were the good old days, man. when I wasn't watching terrible football, not just here, but in New Orleans as well. It's just, I've watched a lot of bad football lately. It's sad, sad, sad. One texter says, teams haven't seen Levis play in over a year. Teams want to see him play in the preseason before they trade for him. I could envision a trade for Levis happening at roughly the same time a trade happened with Malik Willis. And I remember exactly where I was. My parents had come to town to celebrate my son's birthday, which is in late August. So it was like the last day of training camp, like one of the last days of August that the Titans traded Willis to the Packers. So I could imagine, like, the day after the final preseason game, maybe Levis gets moved.
Yeah, I can see that happening, because they don't have the benefit of doing it like right now, unless a team jumps out there and say, "Hey, listen, we don't want there to be a market, so we give you, say, a fifth." I don't think the Titans will walk away from a 5th round pick, if indeed it was offered to them for Will Levis. But more than likely, you're going to see a deal done, toward the end of camp, where teams pretty much know their roster. They hadn't made all their cuts, but they know their roster, and they know where Will Levis can fit in as far as their backup. But again, it's going to have to happen after he plays after he plays a preseason game. And I'm not sure how they're going to divvy out the reps in preseason, because now there's only 3 games. Maybe they take this time because they have the crossover games, practices with teams. Maybe they give Ward and Trubisky all those reps, and maybe Will gets the reps in preseason. That's the only way he's going to show, any type of worth on an open market.
I don't know how Saleh has approached, or Dable for that matter, because I'm sure he would have input, what they have decided to do when they were head coaches with playing the starters, specifically the quarterbacks. Because on one hand, you could say, well, just let Levis play all the preseason games and you can showcase him and all that. But does this team have the luxury of doing that?
No.
Like, they need to work on themselves, right? They've got other things going on besides, let's see if we can get a 5th round pick for Will Levis. Like, you can't have everything revolving around that.
No.
So I am curious how they do that in the games when, the highlights are always on there, right? It's going it's going to go around. Somebody's going to get hurt in a camp, and people are going to say, well, who are the quarterbacks that are out there that are gettable? And Will Levis and his agent, they want Will Levis to lead that list. And if he's throwing a couple touchdown passes, even if it's in the second half of a scrub preseason
it doesn't matter
game,
when it is. Yeah.
Right. That's what will get people talking, right?
615-737-1025. Your thoughts on Will Levis, who found his way out of witness protection a couple of days ago and addressed reporters for the first time in more than a year. 615-737-1025. But coming up next, after practice today, Willie, Derek, and Connor caught up with new Titans wide receiver Wandale Robinson. We will play that interview for you. Easy for me to say. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. DMase, Vingan and Donick, 102.5. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. I was going to, well, I took it upon myself to do the music today in my return. And the theme is, it's football season now. So here are some of my favorite songs that were featured on Madden soundtracks when I was younger. So just getting me back in the football mood here. So
when was the last time you played, Matt?
Those games have become so complicated.
Yes, they have.
I think you need a PhD to properly play Madden at this point. Before it was relatively simple. Now you've got to time everything just right. And there are all these different meters and charts. And I'm like, this is too complicated. I just want to play NFL Blitz on my Nintendo 64. I remember how easy that was.
Old school, man.
Call me a doctor then.
Well, I mean, I hear you and the other producers get all nerdy about college football 27 and all that stuff. And
it's the stuff, man.
It's too much.
Can I quickly, before we get to Wandale Robinson, can I share my favorite Madden rage quitting story from my youth? I think a lot of people can relate. So when I was in middle school, I was playing Madden with a friend of mine. His name was Cameron. And Cameron and I were playing Madden. I was the Eagles. He was the Buccaneers. And in the fourth quarter, he scored a touchdown to go up 4 with under 10 seconds to go. So he kicks the ball off to me. Modest return. I've got time for one play to win the game. I throw the Hail Mary. At that time, it would have been Donovan McNabb, I assume would have been the quarterback of the Eagles. I throw the Hail Mary down the sideline. His virtual DB goes up, deflects the pass right into my receiver's hands. The DB falls down. I run straight for the end zone. Touchdown as time expires. I win. Cameron then calmly places the PS2 controller on the ground, then proceeds to stomp on it with all of his weight. Breaks the controller in half and throws it out the window.
Oh, wow.
That was rage quitting before rage quitting was a thing.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So one texter says, just bring back Tecmo Bowl. So simple. I mean, go watch a video about Madden these days. It's just like you've got to spend your entire day learning these games in order to play them effectively. But I digress.
I don't have enough fingers to play those games. Just don't.
I'll teach you.
The three of you caught up with new Titans wide receiver Wandale Robinson after practice today. I'm looking forward to this conversation. We'll react to it on the other side. But here is new Titans wide receiver Wandale Robinson with Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Connor Newt.
We got Wandale Robinson, the newest addition to the Tennessee Titans revamped receiving corps. Now, Wandale, first and foremost, how was practice today? And then also, how do you believe this young group has developed thus far?
I think today's practice was really good. I mean, there's still some things to clean up, but for it being the first day of pads, I feel like we came out aggressive and physical and executed well. But, like you said, a young team, and we got to continue to keep building and each and every day just continue to get better.
Now, how has your role changed, if any, from what you were doing with Dabo last year? Because I know he had you inside, he had you outside. Mm-hmm. Especially after Neighbors went down. Yeah. But how has your role changed from that to what you're doing now?
I wouldn't say too much. I'd say maybe not as much on the outside, but still definitely running all the routes that I was running, a lot of the option routes and things like that, especially for Cam, just being that security blanket and just kind of a guy that you can always go to whenever. So, yeah.
We're talking to Wandale Robinson, wide receiver for Tennessee Titans. And, Wandale, we've been watching you close, and as Derek can tell anybody, you never guaranteed anything when you get into the league. When did you realize that you were a good fit for what Brian Daboll was doing offensively?
Pretty much the moment he drafted me. As soon as I got there, he was like, you're going to learn this position, this position, this position. And I was just kind of like looking at all the routes and them just sitting down. And whenever we would just watch film and stuff, and it's like, you're going to be here, you're going to be here. And it's like, it's exactly what I would want to do. So it was pretty much a match made in heaven whenever I got to be with him. And been 5 years in the making of getting all this stuff right.
Well, one thing that we hear a lot, there are some receivers, it takes a long time to learn the terminology, to get comfortable. So what is it about his offense? You hear this, that it's easier to learn than some. Why?
Well, once you get it, it's very easy. It's just a lot of it's one word. You just kind of have to know everything, just like one little word. And the easier you get that, the more that he can move us all around and do a lot of different things.
You mentioned you played some baseball growing up, and you spent quite a bit of time doing that. Where do you think that helped you being a multi-sport athlete? Because we talk about that all the time, the way youth sports is run today.
Yeah, I would say with baseball, it was the adversity part. Not being able to get a hit every time you go up to bat. It's like you got to be able to counter that and be able to stay in the moment and still go out there and do your job. And but ultimately, I think at baseball too, with the ball tracking, like I said, I play receiver, and you got to be able to track that ball. So.
Is there anything you can take away from your experience last year? Because I look at your experience and it was sort of like mine. Someone gets hurt, then you're thrust into the offense, you're prepared for it, and then you take off. How have you taken that experience and taken it to this team? Because you got some young receivers too here that, like you, are waiting for their opportunity.
Yeah, I've told them, like, hey, you never know when your number's going to be up. It can always be, it could be any moment, any given time. You don't know what play, something may happen and your number has to get called. So you always want to be ready for any and every moment that you get called for, and you want to make the most of it. So where I'll try to implement them too. So
now, Wandale, you and Cam work a lot across the middle, inside, and short down and distance. Is that something that you stress to him on a daily basis? And even before we got out here at training camp, I know you guys took a trip to Miami. Was that something you worked on out there?
I wouldn't say it's like a stressor for us, but I think we know that a lot of our offense comes from those throws, and he likes throwing across the middle. I like running across the middle, and you got to be fearless to do those things, and obviously you want to be on the same page with your quarterback when you're doing those things. So it makes it easy for us whenever we both enjoy it, and it makes it harder on the defenses.
I got to sneak this one in here. I was born and raised a Kentucky fan, so watching you play football out there was a dream.
Yes,
having you here adds another level of excitement for me.
That's
so
awesome.
What's something that you learned from Coach Stoops from Kentucky that you're bringing along with you here?
Just learn how to be a pro. He wasn't going to baby us or do anything like that. We were an older team, so you kind of had a little bit more freedom to kind of be a pro and see what that feels like. And I feel like ever since then, I've always kind of been that way.
Wandale, I'm sure you've gotten this version of this question a million times, but like we watch across town for the hockey team. UC Soros has always been that guy. He's been told all his life, you can't play goalie. You're not big enough to do it. Goalies tend to be really big in hockey. So how have you used that chip on your shoulder, prove everybody wrong kind of mentality?
Like you said, it's been my whole life. I haven't heard anything different since I was the age of 5. And so, just going out there more so prove myself right rather than proving anybody else wrong. So I know my capabilities and I know what I can do out there on the football field, and it's just about me going out there and showing it.
Did you have a coach or somebody that said, okay, look, this guy you have to overlook the size. This guy's a player. Like it's got to be good to have coaches believe in you when you're going against the grain like that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Especially like Dave's. They kind of got killed for taking me in New York when I first got picked, and he was like, I believe in you wholeheartedly, and they came to light me up there and figured out, okay, he's a good football player, but just part of it. So at the end of the day, the ones that believe in you, staying next to them and staying close, and at the end of the day, you'll get to where you want to be.
Okay, one more before we get you out of here. Now, you had the opportunity to play with a rookie, Malik Neighbors, and you saw his development. Now you get another opportunity to play with Carnell Tate, who is a top 4 pick.
Right.
What have you seen in Carnell that you saw in Neighbors that gives you optimism?
When they catch everything, especially Carnell, every ball in the air, it just seems like it just like gravitates towards him, and just the way he comes into work every day. He's here at about 5:30, 6 in the morning every day, and doing everything that he can to know the offense, know all the spots. We can put him anywhere on the offense, and he's going to know what to do. So I would say just being the ultimate pro, and it's going to do him well in the long run.
That was Wandale Robinson with Willie, Derek, and Connor after practice. Here's a trivia question for all of you.
Mm-hmm.
How many receivers over the past 2 NFL seasons have more combined targets than Wandale Robinson?
He's at what? 280?
Yeah, he's had 100. Yeah, he's had 280 over the last 2
Correct.
years.
140 each season, if memory serves.
So I would say 4.
You are correct. There are 4 receivers who have had more targets over the past 2 seasons than Wandale Robinson. Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Justin Jefferson.
That is a real. I would have said less than 10, but I wouldn't have gone 4.
Yeah.
That's it.
That is a high number of targets. And Adam, this was something we hit on last week. And I just listening to Robinson talk, I think he'll be okay. I think he's a team guy. He doesn't seem like a diva to me. It's like, hey, I've got to have 12 targets a week or whatever, whatever it is. I mean, there are some that if they're not getting a certain amount of targets, it's just a matter of time before it's going to get out. Either passive aggressively or the guy taking the podium and said, throw me the ball, throw me the ball. But I wonder what's the right amount of targets, given the fact that Aaron Schatz has the number. The
failed reception king.
The failed reception king. In other words, there's a lot of catches he makes that don't get you where you need to go. They're not moving the chains enough. So what's the right amount in that offense where you've got Tate and you've got Ridley? That's the question.
FTN Fantasy wrote, quote, "There is nothing in the world Brian Daboll loves more than having Robinson run a short curl or a hitch or a wide receiver screen, catching the ball maybe 2 yards downfield, and immediately getting tackled."
Now, he caught some passes today that were not of that nature, DMase. We saw it. Like, he was getting over the middle. He was catching, the first thing we noticed, the first practice, like, wow, how do you find that guy in a crowd? But he was saying, I love going over the middle.
Yeah, now, him loving to go over the middle and Cam seeing him are two different things. I was on the sideline today and was talking to a few people and just trying to gauge, because he has been a, high volume guy the last 2 years. What would be the right amount of targets for him? And somewhere around in that 90, so that would put 5 to 6 targets per game. And I think you will get a lot of efficiency out of him, especially in this offense. They want him to essentially, I would love him to play sort of that St. Brown role where, he's in a slot, you motioning him, you trying to find your mismatch, because this is a guy that can get his hands on the ball very quickly and use his quickness to get yards after catch. So I just wonder how they're going to use him. It's not going to be the 140, meaning targets, but I think if you target him around 90, somewhere around there, I think you'll get more efficiency. But they need to build that rapport, because that's where he's going to work his space in the middle of the field. He and Cam need to build that rapport and build it very quickly.
615-737-1025. Great interview, guys. We'll take your reaction to Willie, Derek, and Connor's interview with Wandale Robinson. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, CBS has a big decision to make regarding its NFL coverage. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. DMase, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. And speaking of partying hard, Tony Romo. Now, I don't know if he was actually partying, but within the past couple of weeks, Tony Romo was arrested for operating a vehicle while intoxicated, I believe in Milwaukee or Wisconsin, somewhere in Wisconsin. I don't know. But it was an OWI, operating while intoxicated, which is basically a DUI.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew Marchand at The Athletic had a column with the headline, Tony Romo, CBS at a breaking point after leave. Quote, worst contract in media history. Tony Romo signed with CBS 10 years, $180 million in 2020. 10 years, $180 million.
It's a lot of iron.
2020.
Oh, yeah.
And he has been placed on leave by CBS. JJ Watt, by the way, will take over with Jim Nance.
See, that's the key to me. You can be on, quote, leave when there's a whole month before there's games, but they've already put somebody in his chair.
And I like JJ. I like JJ Watt as a color analyst. So Romo's on leave from CBS. CBS has elevated JJ Watt alongside Jim Nance in the network's #1 NFL booth. And now CBS has a big decision to make, because I'm sure there's some sort of clause in his contract, a morals clause, that if CBS wants to wiggle its way out of this huge contract that it gave Tony Romo, they probably have the legal grounds to do so. And I was reminded the other day, remember where Tony Romo made his NFL commentator debut? Right here in Nashville. Week 1, I believe it was Raiders at Titans.
It was
at Nissan Stadium. It all began here.
Opening day.
So is this the original contract that he's still on, that he signed? What was that, 5-6 years ago?
So he joined CBS in 2017.
Yeah.
Right? So
they're still working off that contract.
I have to, according to The Athletic, he signed a 10-year, $180 million contract in 2020.
Yeah, so I'm still sure they're still working off, which means if they do end up firing him, and it will his contract is almost up anyway, so he has all the money basically, with the exception of a year.
At least you would think he has enough to, quote, get by.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Marchand reports Romo's contract calls for him to receive a nearly implausible, his words, $72 million over the next 4 years.
Oh, man.
So he got over $100 million out of the 180 at this point. There's a couple of things that are beneath the surface a little bit here. Tony Romo rose to the top about as fast as you could do for that job, right? He was instant. Oh, my gosh, Tony Romo knows every play that's being called before it's snapped. He seemed to have that. And then as he got more removed from the game, I feel like there was a little bit of, hey, wait, is that really the best way to do it? And is he really right every time? That as a TV play-by-play guy, it could happen to the play-by-play guy or the color announcer, where you feel like you're red hot, everybody loves you, and then all of a sudden, hey, I'm the same guy, I've been doing this for a long time. Why does everybody not like me as much now? But don't you feel like he'd lost a little bit of luster before all of this happened? With the incident,
I think
right?
people got
people
tired
were questioning. They
of,
were like, "Hey, he's not as exciting."
The shine has come off.
And also, there are people like Marchand and others very critical of things that he said in certain spots of games. And I don't know that everybody was wrong, but I felt like it's people that have gone at him a lot more. And then in the early years, he was getting a lot of praise and benefit of the doubt. So that's sitting here. If you're CBS, you're like, paying all this money to this guy. Is he really still our best guy? What do we do? And now this happens. And so that's a factor, right? Whereas if he was totally beloved and everybody still loves Tony, he's our #1 guy, would they be talking about his contract?
I'm not sure
like this
if
happens?
they would be. He was sort of in that mode of Gruden, meaning how Gruden described games. But Gruden did it in a way where I think it would have sort of matured gracefully. the way he sort of, but the way Romo did it, I think it was exciting at first because it was like, oh, like you said, oh, he's telling us, but then after a while, people are just like, do we really want to hear all that? Just talk about, anything outside of trying to tell us what the play is going to be and this and that. So, I mean, will they choose to move on from him? I don't know. But listen, I haven't done that job, and I'm not sure if I could. I thought he was okay. I mean, I didn't think he was horrible. But yeah, what are they going to do with him moving forward?
I mean, if you're CBS,
I didn't realize he had 4 more years left on the deal.
If you're CBS and you're trying to, as politely as you can, nudge Tony Romo towards the exit, if he's able to come back, do you say, all right, Tony, you're going to be on our number 2 crew with Ian Eagle, and we'll see. You're not going to get as much promotion. You're not going to get the best games, but maybe you can work your way back up. But as you said, Willie, the fact that CBS has already named his replacement in J.J. Watt, I think that door might be closed.
They acted quick.
Yes.
And I don't know if you guys saw the footage of the stop.
Yeah.
Man, it just is a great reminder of don't put yourself in that situation. It's easy to say, right? But it's a great reminder. We're all human, right? But don't put yourself in that. I don't know how much he had to drink or not, but whether he had 1 drop or 12 beers, the person that stopped him gave him absolutely zero benefit of the doubt or anything. I mean, this officer was like, we're going to put you through this. We're going to put you, we're taking you over, and you're going to, they had him doing all kinds of stuff. And like, I don't know how much, I don't know what the story was. He clearly looked like he had, like he said, no, I haven't had anything to drink, which is also probably, but what do you say, right? If you say, hey, why I've had a couple drinks, but not enough to impair my drive. Like, what do you say when somebody,
but the minute you say you had a couple of drinks, it's
right. Then it opens the door for, you're going to do all this stuff. But it was like a night. I was like having the nightmare for him. Like, gosh, you would hate to be in that position. He's like, I'm going to see my parents, grandma and grandpa. The officer was not buying it.
He was not buying it.
Give me your license. Get out of the car. We're going to put you through the pay. Oh, boy.
David in Murfreesboro says, my question is, why didn't Greg Olson get his spot? Remember, he had the controversy of being better than Romo. That was with Tom Brady.
That was the Brady, because he's Fox. Yeah,
that was Fox. But Greg Olson does do a really good job. Kevin says, if you are about to talk about Romo and if CBS should can him, give me a break. Most all of us drink and drive at some point. Well, I can say, Kevin, that I've never done that. But whether it's a bar, restaurant, friends, barbecue, whatever, he just happened to get caught. Most of us don't. Life happens. Well, first of all, I do not endorse Kevin's text message.
Family
shit. But I don't.
But CB, like, the point is, and the column from Andrew Marchand that The Athletic was, even when Romo signed that contract 6 years ago, someone told Marchand, this is the worst contract in sports media history. That was back in 2020. CBS owes him $72 million over the next 4 years. If CBS wanted to get out of this gives them an opening to do so. That's the conversation. But go ahead, Derek.
No. But when you say something like the texture just sent us,
yeah, I do not.
It's like dude, like they may not fire him, but there may be consequences for your action. But don't just dismiss the action. Oh, everybody do it. I tell my son, everybody do that, but not you. I'm not worried about everybody else. And you can't dismiss the act. Now, if they choose to part ways with them, that's just a consequence of your actions. And they would have every right to fire him. So that's up to them whether they're going to fire him. They may just demote him.
Willie, I do want your broadcasting opinion using your expertise, because when Tony Romo burst onto the scene, that first game he called, Titans Raiders at Nissan Stadium, almost 10 years ago, people were in love with Tony Romo. He was Nostradamus out there predicting plays before they even happened. But then the shtick kind of got a little bit old. But I would love from your expertise as a broadcaster, how would you assess the career path of Tony Romo?
it's such an inexact science because, I've been at a lot of seminars almost on an annual basis with sometimes just hockey announcers, sometimes a mix of basketball, baseball, and hockey announcers. And we get into the weeds a lot on what makes a successful broadcast, right? You're always self-evaluating. And I think that's the first thing is that no matter who you are, no matter how high you get and how quick you get there, like Romo, you have to keep trying to get better. You have to adapt because the game is going to evolve. Broadcasting is going to evolve. So you have to evolve. You can't just do it the same way. But you can talk about the fundamentals of a good broadcast, but you know what comes back every time from the listeners of what they want? They just want to enjoy watching the game with you. Whether you call every play before it happens or not is secondary to, do I like watching the game with Tony Romo? And I think he had that for a while. And I don't know how it's scary because, like, how did he lose it? He's the same guy. Remember, he was on all those commercials.
Yeah.
He did a ton of commercials for a long time. What was it? He was the guy that wasn't watching football. He was making brownies. Like, because he didn't have the direct TV.
I think he had a Skechers deal.
Yeah,
He had a lot
still
of
has
deals.
it, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if Skechers.
Yeah, he may not have it after this one.
And sometimes I think too, and it's really not his fault, but sometimes I think you get overexposed, like too much Tony Romo. I think it's happened to a lot of people. I would use Chris Berman. There's a lot of announcers where if they're everywhere you go, you see that person, no matter how good that person is, people are like, here he is again. Do we have to watch every game? Does he have to call every game? I do think sometimes that happens a little bit. So it's hard to put your finger on, but I think he clearly has not been as trendy of like, that's the guy, man. I love watching a game with Tony Romo. He, for whatever reason, he lost a little bit of that. Still good, but the critics are out there. They're out there all over the place.
It comes with time. When you've been doing something for a long time, eventually people get a little bit tired of it. There are people who have withstood the test of time in that commentary role.
Right. It does go the other way, right? Sometimes, even if the guy maybe loses a little bit as he's getting older, if they have that belovedness, that carries them for extra time. So it can go that way too. It can.
615-737-1025. Your thoughts on the Tony Romo situation. What are your thoughts on Romo's performance as, well, he was CBS's #1 NFL color commentator? 615-737-1025. One texter says, I feel Joe Buck was that guy for a while too. Too much exposure. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the pendulum has swung back towards, hey, Joe Buck, he's great, versus where it used to be. That's
less is more sometimes, because he was everywhere. Joe Buck was doing every game.
Jonathan in East Nashville says, well, I can already tell you I'm sick of JJ Watt as the replacement. Give me Romo over Watt. All right, Jonathan, you heard it here first. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we will get back into Titans practice, the first practice in pads of the season. Willie, Derek, and Connor were out there. They'll give you their thoughts. Plus, I know I said that Aaron Rodgers is exhausting, and he is, but he did say something that popped on my timeline a couple of days ago that I found very interesting in the context of Cam Ward, and we will discuss that too. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. DMase, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and Connor Newt here with you on your drive home. We hope you are having a wonderful day. By the way, it occurred to me, I believe tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of our shift from the midday to the afternoon drive slot.
Okay.
1 year. So thank you to all of you who have been listening throughout the past year as we transition from 11 to 2 to 3 to 6. We've really enjoyed being on the air from 3 to 6 on your commutes home. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But yes, it occurred to me yesterday or someday over the weekend. I'm like, I feel like it's probably coming up close to 1 year. And I think it's 1 year tomorrow.
1 year tomorrow.
That
Our
we've been-
anniversary.
Yes.
It's our anniversary. There you go.
Also, one thing that Connor noted about practice today that I do want to bring up, I've talked about this before. Big no-no, Titans fans. I know you love the new jerseys. They are sharp. Do not put players on those jerseys who did not wear those jerseys.
Ooh.
Connor told me you saw a couple of Steve McNairs.
Yep, I saw those too.
Too many of them.
Nope.
But that's different. Steve McNair's different.
No,
It's like, come on. He's the Ring of Honor. He's MVP. It's a little bit different. And he did wear those colors, by the way.
Not those jerseys, though.
did not wear
I
that.
know.
Yeah.
I know.
With Adam, I stand.
Look, I know Steve McNair is a beloved figure, but no, do not do it. Do not do it. I don't want to see any, I don't know, Will Levis. Well, he's on the team right now. He might not be on the team. So we'll see. We talked about Will Levis earlier in the show, but y'all were out at practice today. It was the first practice with pads of training camp. Of course, a lot of focus on Cam Ward's performance. Reading here from Gentry Estes' recap on the Tennessee, and he wrote that Cam Ward had his best practice of camp. Estes writes, quote, "From the jump, Ward looked more decisive and confident in flinging passes deeper down the field. He found Calvin Ridley for a big play, beating cornerback Cordell Flott. He hit Wandale Robinson several times in the middle of the field for nice gains. He had some nice throws and completed a higher percentage than what we'd been seeing from him going back to summer workouts, so that was encouraging. What was not encouraging, 2 sloppy interceptions from Ward that looked a lot like duplicates. Ward was intercepted early by Amani Hooker on a play where he was flushed from the pocket, rolled right, and then tried to throw back to the middle of the field. Evidently, he didn't learn from the mistake because Ward tried the same throw later in practice, rolling right and throwing back left across his body. Jermaine Johnson picked off that throw." And Derek, you said earlier, I asked you at the top of the show, standouts, good and bad, from the first few days of training camp for those of us like me who were off last week and weren't really paying attention when training camp opened. And you singled out the quarterbacks among those who have not stood out for the right reason. So let's I know there's going to be a lot of attention on the interceptions that Cam Ward threw in practice. How would you evaluate his overall performance today?
I think today was one of those days where, yes, he made throws out there that you want to see him make. But also he did have 2 errant passes that, the second one he shouldn't have thrown because it resembled the first one. But you can take that and sort of put it aside and see everything else he was doing. Again, he put some balls in tight spaces, what you want to see. He hit Calvin Ridley over the middle on the in route. There was just a laser to his back shoulder, and Ridley made a hell of a catch. So he's out there, and he is throwing dimes just about everywhere. But also, you can see it's still a progress for him. So, yeah, I think he had a good day. It wasn't great, but I guarantee you he's spending a lot of time on those mistakes that he made in practice rather than those things that we saw, that everybody saw, and we wowed over him. I guarantee you he's in the meeting room with Dabo and everyone, and they're really asking him, like, what did you see? Because these things are going to happen again. And you got to make sure that you've been, sort of put through the ringer in a sense on what you're seeing out there. So we all can be on the same page, because you don't want You do it once, okay. You do it again, you don't want it to happen after that.
Willie, you've been out to practice many times so far. Your assessment of Cam Ward today and overall since training camp opened.
I've been watching this because I know he's been working a lot on footwork and mechanics. And so I've been watching for that. When he plants his foot and really rips it and he's on balance, man, the results are impressive. I know he's also working on getting the, quick decision. Let's get the ball out quick. Let's not have that clock go off in your head. And I think that I see them trying to work on a lot of quick hitters like that, to where he's gonna be in rhythm and throwing. So much so that I think there's been some throws that he's made up his mind before the guy's actually open, just because he wants to get that ball out. So I think that's something they're working on. So the mechanics, man, like some of the throws you were referencing today, it was that 3rd and long. Somebody had a false start. It was like 3rd and 15 from the 18 or something. And boy, did he drill one in there to Ridley. And I'm like, what do you do? How do you defend that? You can't defend that because he's throwing lasers. And I do think Tate and Robinson have a pretty good feel for catching the heaters, sometimes the high heaters. But the one thing that he's got to stop is the sidearm across the body, because that's when you're losing the mechanics. And as I said in the first hour of the show, Patrick Mahomes, I think, probably ruined it for a lot of quarterbacks and people who teach quarterbacks, because there's a lot of young quarterbacks who have watched Patrick Mahomes for the last 10 or 15 years make these throws that go against the rules of the old adages, the time-tested adages. You don't throw across your body. You don't throw against the grain. You don't throw late over the middle. Those 3 right there, all 3 were in play in the 2 interceptions, both interceptions. So he threw it across his body, he threw against the grain, and it was late over the middle. But Patrick Mahomes, you can put 100 plays together over the course of his career where he makes it work in key situations. So that's what I wonder. And that was Turron's question today to Robert Saleh. How do you feel about that? Do you want to take away a potential weapon for a young quarterback, or do you want to say, just take that out of your bag? Take that club out of your bag. Don't worry about it. We're going to come out ahead if you just don't ever do that.
He's moving around in the pocket well, too. He had some opportunities to move inside the pocket, climb the pocket, and he ran on one, slid and got a first down, and then he operated and moved out of the pocket and made a throw on another. So he's still working on moving, and I think a lot of that is going to get better too. Him navigating through the pocket, feeling comfortable with the guys around him at his feet, and either deciding to run or extend it a little bit to try to get a pass down the field.
So this is not something I normally say, but I heard Aaron Rodgers say something fascinating. And not what he said today on the Pat McAfee show. And maybe we'll discuss Aaron Rodgers tomorrow, because I have some thoughts. But I saw a clip from a podcast. Unfortunately, the name of the podcast is escaping me. Maybe I'll find it, because I do want to give proper credit. But we were talking about this during OTAs when Cam Ward's accuracy issues were bubbling back up to the surface, and everybody was tracking his completion percentage. And we've talked about the issues with that in terms of evaluating a quarterback's performance in minicamp and in training camp. But Aaron Rodgers did a podcast when he was talking about incompletions, and incompletions being perhaps the most valuable tool for a quarterback in practice. Here's what Aaron Rodgers had to say.
It just goes back to stuff you've worked on in practice, and being able to draw back on those experiences where you're not operating in a perfect environment with no defenders. It's like, no, give me someone out there, just a shadow, so I can feel what it feels like to throw right the back of his head on the back shoulder. And again, I think that's where you grow, is where you put yourself in the most adverse situations. And to circle back to the point, when coaches and or players are way more concerned about what it looks like than how it feels, it's really hard to grow because you're just going to be hoping for perfect passes in practice.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, you missed that one. Perfect. That's exactly what you want.
Right.
Because
Here's
now
how you
you got a
fix it.
feeling. Oh, shoot. I was a little on my front foot on that one. I was, my hitch was a little too much, or I got to have more weight on the back, or I got to put a little bit more air on this ball when it's 25 yards outside the numbers. Like those are the ones that, like working with young quarterbacks, I'm like, that's the best rep possible. Now just remember that one. So when it comes up next time, you can make the right throw.
By the way, the podcast, the Keep Hammering Collective with Cameron Haynes, who is a bow hunting athlete, quote, training intensively each and every day to become the ultimate predator. Unlike our friend, the ultimate predator, big Predators fan. But I thought that was insightful.
I think
from
that's
Aaron Rodgers.
I think DMase, he's talking about the crux of Turron's question to Robert Saleh is practice time. Do you allow somebody to be creative, get outside of the mechanics a little bit, especially when you're in that developmental stage? I thought that was really interesting of Rodgers. Now, Rodgers is a little bit like Mahomes, right? One of the things that made him great was his ability to improvise. You'd love for Cam Ward to get to that point someday, but he's made a lot of mistakes doing it. So at what point do you say these are the rules? As Saleh said, non-negotiables. There are certain non-negotiables. So how far do you take the non-negotiable at this stage of Ward's career?
Yeah, I just think, okay, there's this deal with it be, looking a certain way and then obviously a feel. But either way, they all got to match up. It all has to match up eventually. Your feel and, that look has to match up, because if that look ain't there, I don't care how you feel, you're going to throw an interception. If the look's not there, you're going to have to go somewhere else. But I just think it's a combination of both. That's why when we talked last week, Willie, and because Heimerdinger would always say, listen, you have leeway, but it's within the confines of what we're trying to do. But as long as you and Steve are on the same page, that's all that matters. As long as you, and that's what it is with a quarterback. Yeah, as long as you and a play caller are on the same page, and that person that you're throwing it to, as long as y'all are on the same page, then yeah, this notion of it's about a feel. You're right. It is about a feel. But I can have that feeling if I ain't on the same page and they don't have the same feeling, it ain't gonna work. So yes, he's right, but then it's a little bit more than just a feeling, because everybody got to have that same feeling. And fortunately enough for Aaron Rodgers, he's been on like the right page with his guys when he's been with them, and that's typically
because
when
he
was at
brings
Green
them
Bay.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, Alan Lazard stayed in the
Exactly,
NFL
yeah.
for many, many years because he was Aaron Rodgers' guy. But I digress.
I think it's a great point, because you're adding the nuance of playing quarterback. It's not just your decision. It's the decision that affects the 10 other guys on the field, right? Especially the receivers. Like, there are coaches in basketball that I can relate to. I played for a coach that was closer to Bobby Knight. You're only taking the shots within the offense that are good shots, right? You have to be there. There were strong rules. And as a shooter, different guys handle it different ways. But as a shooter, sometimes you're like, is this a good shot? As you're ready to shoot, you don't want to be thinking about that, right? You want to be loose. You want to be confident. And if it's a tweener, if it's like, I'm not sure this is a good shot, is coach going to be mad? That probably hurts my chances of making that shot. There are other coaches, like Bruce Pearl would be an example of, I want the shooter to have all the confidence. Rick Pitino would be the same way, I think. Like,
let's shoot.
Let's shoot or shoot. And if there are a couple bad shots in there, that's all right. I'll live with that. That's what Bobby Knight and my coach was more like that. Eddie Fogler, like, I can't deal with that. If you take a bad shot, you're coming out. I'm taking you out right now, because that's where Bruce Pearl would be like, shoot it. A couple bad shots, that's okay. I'll tell you, I think that's a bad shot, but I don't want you thinking about what I think when you shoot the ball. Both have their merits, right? And that, I think, is where Cam Ward is on some of these throws, where he gets out of his mechanics. If he drops down, throws sidearm across his body, I've wondered, can he get to a point where he knows when to do it and it's going to be a plus? It might take some 2 interception days at practice to get through that, right? And he may never get through that. That's the question for Daboll is like, how do I teach that in the meantime?
But it's a lot of it. A lot of it has to do because, again, you never want to take a quarterback's ability to make plays away from him. You don't. But what you hope happen is, like you said, Willie, he understands when to make those throws. Like my first year, I may not make a sidearm throw. Everything may be one way. But then as I'm learning defenses, as I'm learning players, I know, well, if they're playing Jacksonville, the first time you figure I can't do it. Then the second time you come out and say, okay, I can make some of these throws. Why? Because now you've had time to go back and assess and look at the team you're playing. Now you pick up on some of their tendencies. So when I'm rolling out to my right, do I have the ability to throw a sidearm because of where the guy is at or how he's approaching me? So I wouldn't take away his ability to throw sidearm, but it's the more I see, the better I get at doing those things. That's why, Patrick Mahomes is so he's done it so many times. So we may think it's careless, but he don't see it as that way because he's done it so many times and he knows exactly what's going to happen more times than not.
And I think that's what I took out of Rodgers' statement that we just played is in the practice, it doesn't matter if you throw some interceptions. But I get the gauge of what I can do and what I can't do. The only way to do that is to try some throws in practice that might risk looking bad.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the Titans and Cam Ward. 2 interceptions today in practice, of course. That is the headline. But Willie, Derek, and Connor were all out there and thought overall he had a solid, if not inconsistent, performance today. 615-737-1025 coming up next. I hate to do this to you, Derek Mason and Joe Rexrode and Jake Lyman. We have a lot of Tigers fans on the air at this station. Tarek Skubal traded from the Tigers to the dreaded Dodgers. Are the Dodgers ruining baseball? No, but we'll discuss it coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. DMase, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. And it was a sad day for multiple members of our staff. Joe Rexroad, Jake Lyman, our very own Derek Mason, when the Detroit Tigers traded Tarek Skubal to the dreaded, the hated Los Angeles Dodgers. And as you might imagine, this has led to a lot of what Ken Rosenthal wrote at The Athletic, anti-Dodger hysteria. As an MLB, as Major League Baseball seemingly careens toward a lockout. And a lot of that is going to have to do with whether Major League Baseball institutes a salary cap. And I've read a lot of interesting think pieces about the Skubal trade and what it means for the fate, the future of baseball. And I do have some thoughts on this. I want to start, however, with our resident baseball fan, our biggest baseball fan here, Willie Donick. Number one, your thoughts on the trade. And two, what does this mean for the bigger picture of baseball? Are the Dodgers ruining baseball?
It's going to be, I think, a very central example that will set the stage for the labor battle that is going to happen, that I really hope that both sides could be sensible, because unlike some past negotiations, I really think baseball has done a great job of navigating a lot of their issues. I think the product is really good. The pitch clock has been a huge hit. The challenge system, I think, is good. They're trying to put more action in the game. There's more stolen bases. There's more room for athleticism. People still strike out too much, but it's not going anywhere. Pitchers are throwing harder than they've ever thrown. So there's a lot of really healthy things about baseball. But competitive balance is coming back into the picture now. And when this kind of deal gets made, whether they like it or not, and I was very disappointed last night with the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast. I thought there would be a really good on-air debate, but the players on the panel almost, you could tell, they didn't want to touch it. Clayton Kershaw was on the panel. There was a Red Sox representative, Oral Hershiser was on there. What they do on Sunday night now is they take a broadcaster from each of the teams and put them with Jason Benetti, who's an excellent up-and-coming play-by-play guy. I think it's a really good broadcast. But they didn't want to get into it. I could tell, because the players still are of the old school. They don't want a salary cap. But I think it's time to really get with it. And you can justify a lot of things. The Dodgers are smarter than everybody. But you can't tell me that they don't have a huge advantage over the competition because of the resources they have. And this was the point, the central point. The Brewers, who the Sounds are their affiliate, right in our backyard. We set the table with DMase, and I talked about this before the trade happened, because the Brewers were interested in Skubal too. And the point is made, the Brewers have the same record as the Dodgers. They're winning just as many games. They could have traded for Skubal. They had the farm system to do it. Skubal as a rental was affordable even for the Brewers. That's all well and good. But there are so many other things that show you why the Dodgers have the gap between what they're spending and what everybody else is spending. It's a huge advantage. For competitive balance, they've got to narrow the gap between the highest paid teams and the lowest paid teams.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. How did the Dodgers get the deal that they got? Because they're saving a lot of money based on that. The whole
on their broadcasting,
the whole
for Skubal.
No. I'm just talking about the Dodgers, the team, because they get some type of tax break or something. They get for, was I reading it right, for a franchise going into bankruptcy, and they don't get taxed as much for, I think it lasts for over 10 years. It's to 2039 where the contract runs out, where they only get taxed a certain amount, which then helps them because they get taxed as if they were a lower bracket team rather than what they are making now.
June Lee reported, because the Dodgers went bankrupt, MLB
Yes.
agreed to tax their TV money as if they were still broke.
Exactly.
That lets the Dodgers keep about $66 million more every year than they otherwise would.
Wow.
This exception runs through
As if
2039.
in that market you needed a break
and
like
that's
that.
so there are, even with a salary cap, they still would get a huge benefit.
And that was my question to you, Willie. And many people point to the Dodgers as a sign of everything that's wrong with the modern baseball economic system, the deferred payments and the
but the counterpoint is everybody can do deferred payments.
right. The Dodgers are a forward-thinking organization. They've got a great drafting and scouting department. And yes, they're willing to spend a ton of money on bringing in the best players. My thought about the salary cap is, how much difference would it actually make? Because we're seeing this in the NHL right now, Willie. The salary cap, a hard salary cap in the NHL, is skyrocketing. So every team has the same amount of money to spend, theoretically. But we all know that the Toronto Maple Leafs can spend a hell of a lot more than the Columbus Blue Jackets. So even if the Los Angeles Dodgers have to play with a salary cap, they're going to still be able to spend up to the cap, while the Tampa Bay Rays or the Milwaukee Brewers or the Cleveland Guardians, they're not going to be able to spend that much money. So, how much does it really change anything?
I think what I want to see is it narrow, because in hockey, I think it's the best system going, because, and especially us being in the market that we're in Nashville, I'm so glad. I do remember in the early years of the Predators covering the team when there was no salary cap, and you did wonder, how are they ever going to make it work when the disparity between what the top teams spend and what they spend is unbelievable. They sat out an entire year to get the salary cap, and I'm thankful, because that's the only reason the Predators flourish. You don't hear small market with the Predators. You don't really hear small market in very many cities, because the way the system is set up, the gap between the big market teams and the small market teams isn't that big of a thing. Whereas in baseball, how much do you think the Dodgers have the most payroll right now? How much do you think it is compared to the Brewers, who are the 20th highest paid payroll, and they have basically the same record right now? The Brewers have done an amazing job with less. But what's the gap in your mind?
$300 million.
Yeah.
What do you think, Derek?
I would say it's probably more than that, maybe 4.
Adam is close. The Dodgers payroll is $431 million and change. The Brewers, $147 million. So that's almost 3 times, right? Or that's over double, right, of the payroll. And you're saying, well, who cares? That's great. The Brewers are still winning. But in a playoff series, it's different. And how you get there is different. For example, here's the Dodgers. Here's what you can do when you spend $432 million. Tyler Glasnow has pitched 7 games this whole year. He's on the 60-day IL. They have so much talent, it's okay. They're bringing him along slow. He'll be there for the postseason. He is a weapon. He's pitched 7 games the whole year. I don't think, Edwin Diaz, who they took from the Mets, he's pitched 9 games this whole year. He's been injured. They're saving him. They're going to get him back for the postseason. And Blake Snell will be the third example I'll use. Blake Snell has pitched 1 game this year. So those 3 guys have played. Those are 3 pitchers. They have gotten a combined 3, 11, 30, 40. So that's 51 innings for 3 guys. You know what they're paying those guys? Tyler Glasnow gets $32 million. Edwin Diaz gets $17 million. Blake Snell gets $27 million. The Brewers can't have 3 guys making that much money on the shelf pitching 11 games and 51 innings. That's the luxury that the Dodgers have. That's a huge competitive advantage. If you had a salary cap, they would have to be better and make better decisions. And they make great decisions. They don't need extra help. They are smart enough. It should be about how smart you deploy your resources and your depth, and not, hey, I can put a lot of guys making a lot of money on the shelf and it's no big deal as long as they're healthy in September and October.
The other counterpoint, Derek, is the entire premise of Moneyball is that competence alone can get a team far even without resources. I mean, I hate to do this to Willie Donick. He's having a rough day as it is. The New York Mets are trading every player who is living and breathing in that uniform. You can have a ton of resources and still be hot garbage.
Yeah.
Like the New York Mets are this season. Sorry, Willie. But, you know, the sound, like, as someone who did and continues to, in a different role, cover the NHL, the salary cap in the NHL is just so simple to understand, right? You have this much, you have this much money, you can spend up to this much money, you can't spend any more money. The NFL and Major League Baseball, if you're not
And basketball,
if you're not like engrossed in it, man, it is hard to grasp all of it. But to me, like, I'm not sure how
in baseball, the simplicity is you can spend all you want. There's just a luxury tax once you hit a certain bar, and that helps fund the lower teams. And so this is the problem that the players have is, well, if you have a salary cap, then that's going to limit what the top players can make. And that's true. But what you make up for is if you force the bottom 10 teams to spend up to a floor, the players, I think, will come out better. In theory, at least for me.
One texter. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
No, I was just going to say you have to be able to, and maybe it doesn't, maybe players don't see the benefit, but I think if you want your league to continue to thrive, there has to be some type of salary cap within there. Do you throw out deferred money? Because right now the Dodgers have more deferred money than anybody. You know, moving forward. So that enables them to sign guys and stack their roster because they're paying a lot of money on the back end. Do they take away deferred contracts if you have a new collective bargaining? Listen, and then will it, in a sense, sort of control what players can ultimately make? Absolutely. But I think your game will thrive if you have some type of mechanism in place where everybody, from a money standpoint, now how much of it they spend, it has to be a percentage, but everybody seems to be on a even playing ground.
One texter says, any team in Major League Baseball could have offered a better deal than the Dodgers. The Brewers have the best farm system in baseball. They could have traded for Skubal. Any team can defer contracts. Most teams benefit from the Dodgers paying the luxury tax, including the Brewers. There needs to be a salary floor, not a cap. No one should fault the Dodgers for spending the resources they make without faulting the other teams that are making more money at the end of the season instead of paying for players.
Right. That is right out of the playbook of the Players Association. I
don't blame them. I get it.
I don't either. I think there's a happy median, though. There has to be an acknowledgement from the players that as much as they should be rewarded for Marvin Miller and that group sitting out and fighting for the right to free agency and the right to, they were the forefront of players associations. Like, they've done a tremendous job. But I think there has to be an acknowledgement that you've got it pretty good. And for the best part, for the best competitive balance for the game, and acknowledging that other leagues have a salary cap, that salary cap is not a death sentence. It's not this, oh my God, we can't ever have a salary cap. Get in the world that every other sport is. A salary cap is not a bad thing.
No.
But within that, let's make it a win-win. Let's try to keep it. Let's keep it so that the players benefit, but at the same time you gain competitive balance. The gap between the Dodgers, I just gave you the three guys that they can take a whole vacation as long as they're there for the last 2 months. That's a luxury that other teams don't have. Bring it back to the middle a little bit, one way or the other.
For kicks and giggles, when I knew we were having this conversation, I looked up the roster of the 2002 Detroit Red Wings. Speaking of Detroit, that was pre-salary cap. That Red Wings team won the Stanley Cup, I believe, against the Carolina Hurricanes. That team with Steve Yzerman and Nick Lidstrom and Sergei Fedorov and Chris Chelios and Brendan Shanahan had a total payroll in 2002 of $66,293,750. Adjusted for inflation, that's more than $123 million today, which exceeds the NHL salary cap at the moment. So I just thought that was funny. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the Tarek Skubal trade and what it means in the big picture for Major League Baseball, as it appears that baseball is careening toward a lockout of some kind in 2027. 615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction and wrap up the show coming up next. Willie Dunnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
All right, it's time to tell you about our friends at Twice Daily. New sponsor on our show. We're glad to have them aboard for the upcoming football season. And let's remind you of the great rewards program that they have. If you're having one of those days, Twice Daily has that ever-ready selection for you. And if you're part of the Twice Daily rewards program, you're going to get special discounts, special savings, enter into sweepstakes, lots of things. You're going to earn points every time you make a visit to Twice Daily and pick up whatever you need, whether it's the fresh pizza for dinner that night for your family, if you're having one of those crazy days, or anything else that you might need when you head over to that. You're going to save money with every visit. So if you're looking for convenience, Twice Daily has you covered. Twice Daily, proud sponsor here on 1025 The Game. Fresh all day.
DMase, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, Connor Newt here with you, wrapping up our first show all together in 2.5 weeks. I feel like I want to do the guy from Bare Naked Ladies. Yeah, it's been 2.5 weeks since we've all been together. But it's like riding a bike, right? Like we haven't done a show all together in 2.5 weeks, but we all sat down and it was like we never left.
Hey,
that's what happens when you've been working together for as long as we have.
Supposed to be.
Yes, precisely. Let's go to our phone line driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com and welcome in our friend Bear. Bear, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, guys, thanks for taking my call. Glad to hear the dynamic team back together. It's a great listen. As far as the MLB situation, I don't have an issue with the Dodgers collecting talent. Like say anybody can do it. You got teams with $80 million payrolls and they making money. They charging $35 for nachos and $80 for park, and they got the money. They charging the fans either way. They just trying to hoard the cash. As far as I'm concerned, I just think you can have a floor. I mean, they probably should. Because the owners they ain't never gonna crack open the books, and because if I was the player association, that's the first thing I'm gonna say. All right, y'all open up your books and show us what y'all making, because y'all claiming y'all poor and y'all ain't got nothing. I believe that'll never happen, and yeah, it'll probably be a lockout to miss a few games, but if they'll come to their senses. But yeah, it should be a floor, make it like $100-something million, and just have a luxury tax if you go over so much. Because I just, as a person on the side of labor, I just ain't with no cap. We a free market society, and people should be able to make whatever somebody want to pay them. That's all I got, guys. Thank you. Have a great show.
Thank
you, Bear. Appreciate it.
I'm just more coming from a competitive balance league. In hockey, what I like is there one team in the league where you say, that market has no chance to win. There's just it just doesn't get discussed, right? It's your own fault, right? Because of the salary cap floor and the ceiling.
It's just how you choose to spend your money.
It's about who's the smartest with the resources they have, because everybody has relatively the same resources, even though, like you said, there's a difference of what Toronto is generating
versus Columbus.
Those are two great examples. But still, because of the salary cap, Columbus has a chance if they're smart and if they do a good job. It's nowhere close to here's what happened today. The Marlins. And everybody will say, well, that's their own fault. They don't care. The Marlins have a winning record. And they were trading guys today. They're in contention. They could make it, but they still are not able to keep their best guys, sign their best guys to long-term deals because they just have limitations to what they've been able to do. And some of it is their own fault. But I think if you could narrow that gap a little bit more, competitive balance would be better. I don't want to hear about 8 or 10 teams that start the year saying we're only going to spend less than a quarter of what the top teams spend. The gap should be narrower.
Brandy says, Ohtani took his deferring deal to multiple other teams and the Dodgers jumped at it. Others could have said yes, unlike the Yankees and the Mets. Sorry, Willie. The Dodgers are smart and creative with their money choices. They get who they need. There needs to be a floor for sure to bring them up. Jerry says, if the owners are making so much money, how could the Dodgers go bankrupt?
I would like to see them remove that whole deferred money thing. Do you think they will do that, Willie? Because it does give other teams with deeper pockets an opportunity to backload. And when I mean backload, I'm talking about years and years down the line, where then they're paying, on the back end rather than on the front end.
That's a really good question. The deferred money and what the texter said is true, that he was offering that to anybody. Deferred money, I guess, is like a double-edged sword to the team.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that and be worried about, like Bobby? We always make fun of the Mets have to pay Bobby Bonilla every July 1st. Some teams don't want to deal with that, but it is one way of doing business. I can't answer the question about the Dodgers going bankrupt. I don't remember when they went bankrupt, really.
It must have been a while ago, because that contract is in place until 2039, I believe.
I'm not sure of the of the particulars.
Right. The owners aren't going broke. Let's put it that way. Like even the teams at the bottom, like the Marlins and like the Rays and teams like that, they're making money because of the system and because teams like the Mets and the Dodgers and some of the teams, they go over the luxury tax and that filters back into the smaller markets. But those teams still, a lot of them don't try to compete. Like I want to see them playing somewhat by the same set of rules of how you build a team, similar to the NHL. Nashville doesn't build their team any different than New York or Toronto because they have relatively the same resources to spend. Miami and Tampa, let's use Tampa and Milwaukee because they are small market teams that are doing really well. But they don't build their team anywhere near the same way that the Dodgers build their team. And it's out of survival, and they're really good at finding ways to survive and thrive. But I still think when the postseason starts, who's got a better chance of winning? It's not even close. The Dodgers are loaded compared to those teams.
I saw this report out of New England Patriots camp. A.J. Brown told NFL Network that he dislocated his thumb in Monday's practice, but he didn't miss any time. That's tough, Derek Mason, dislocating your thumb.
Yeah, it's painful too.
He said the game is what it is. You're going to get bumps and bruises, and you have to keep going. I know it's practice, but I'm not coming out of practice. Thumb out of place, you keep going.
Well, I'm pretty sure, he can work around the sore thumb, just catch it with your body. But I'm sure he wasn't full go after that because even with your thumb, you still got to be cautious. So, but hey, he's there to prove a point that he still got it.
Also, this happened last week when I was on vacation. Mike Vrabel bringing a puppy to a news conference. Did you guys see that? Did you guys talk about that?
Of course.
I didn't see it. Wow.
I saw it. I didn't listen to the press conference, but
cute dog.
I mean, he's pulling out all the stops,
I
man.
saw a lot of headlines. It's like Mike Vrabel brings puppy to deflect questions about Diana Rossini. Like, you can't ask questions about Diana Rossini because look at this dog.
You sound like ridiculousness on MTV.
Oh, that show was on for like 50
Can't
years.
ask me questions because I got a cute dog in my hand.
Well, it's actually, that would be more an indictment of the reporters than Vrabel bringing the dog, because if I'm a reporter, and look, I've done many news conferences in my life. If I'm a reporter at that news conference and I'm like, man, I've got to ask a question about Diana Rossini, but now I can't because look at that dog.
Dog's so cute.
I can't. How could I even
Vrab,
fathom asking
did Diana
a question?
give you that dog? No.
It's more an indictment of the reporters, I think, than Vrabel with the dog. But I thought it was very funny. I'm like, Mike Vrabel, he's playing the game. He's bringing the dog. He's bringing the dog to the news conference. Sean says, F baseball. Those millionaires and billionaires make more money than God, but they couldn't care less about their fans.
I mean, I can't.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that's true. I mean, listen, hey, if somebody wants to pay you that much to play a game, then so be it.
Everybody's doing well.
Don't hate the
Exactly.
player.
Everybody's doing well.
Hate the game.
But here's the thing. They've managed, and this is what I never understood, with some fans. Billionaires managed to have you hate millionaires.
Have you seen the conspiracy theory? Have you seen
it? It doesn't make any sense to me.
You are the chief conspiracy theorist on the program. There's a conspiracy theory going around that baseball is orchestrating all of these moves to the Dodgers to drum up support.
I did wonder that.
Fans.
Hey,
I'm not Mr. Conspiracy Theory.
I wouldn't put that past them.
You want fans to want the salary cap? Just keep loading up the Dodgers behind the scenes, pulling strings. So fans say, this cannot stand. We must have a salary cap.
Trade everybody to the Dodgers.
I have wondered that.
Willie's put his
if the
tinfoil hat
Tigers
on,
owner, if the Tigers owner said, "Go ahead, trade with the Dodgers. This is what we want. We want it to look like they're the most loaded team and the system's unfair." I do think, though, there are more people that I can remember really defending the player side and like just placing blame on the smaller market teams for not being more like the Dodgers. But I'm like, this has been built in over decades. They can't do it the way the Dodgers do it because of the size of the market. It does limit you. So I just want to see better competitive balance. It's not about, hey, the players are getting screwed or the owners are getting screwed. Though both sides are doing really well. The game is healthy. But how do we make it better for the fans and for the overall competitive balance. How do you want to decide a league? If we're in a fantasy league together and your budget is $450 million and my budget is $100 million, you have a big advantage. It's a no-brainer. Let's stop trying to do all these justifications saying the system is fair. It's not the same for everybody in baseball. You're clouding everybody's vision. We've had several people that are going right from the player's playbook and saying, well, anybody could have done that deal. Well, yes, but they also have $450 million in their payroll.
Connor Newt, what's coming up on the 6th?
Lots of Titans talk, per usual. Cam Ward, Alec Iomanner shined today and has been shining all camp. We'll talk about what he needs to do. Lots of defensive talk. Lots of Titans talk in general. The Hounds of Justice are coming.
All right. Connor Newt and Nick Frazier, right?
Yes,
okay.
Dr. Crane.
Connor Newt and Nick Frazier will have you for the next hour on the 6th from 6 to 7 here on 102.5 The Game. We will be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Get another Titans padded practice tomorrow morning. We will be out there. We will provide you all of the analysis that we can fit in 3 hours starting tomorrow at 3 o'clock. It's been a long time since I've been able to say this. Derek Mason, take us out.
Be loved, love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful day. I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music? Don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. We will be back on these airways starting at 3 p.m. tomorrow on 102.5, talking Tennessee Titans. And as I always say, we're going to be talking and
you're going to be listening.
Peace.
Right back at it.
Very good. Don't stop.